Hi, you're watching the VMSports Cast Week 0 recap. I'm Armando Garza.
I'm Eladio Jaimes.
We're going to talk about some of the games last week that made some big headlines. And where better to start than our game of the week, Los Fresnos at Orange. And Lario, what do you got?
Well, Armando, it was pretty much the same as last year. You know, it was a one-sided affair. Last year was Los Fresnos taking it to Harlingen. This year was Harlingen taking it to Los Fresnos. You know, and it was expected. You know, Los Fresnos has a good team. They have talented players, but they're still young and inexperienced at certain skill positions, like their quarterback Danny Silva and running back Danny Mendes, and a lot of the times Danny Silva looked like he was making his first start. You know, he had some open receivers early on who he overthrew, which was expected. You know, I mean, I'm not saying the kid's not a good quarterback. He threw for 124 yards. He rushed for a touchdown. He's got the tools to be a good quarterback at Los Fresnos this year. Next year he'll be great. He just, like I said, you know, he just needed one of those games to kind of get his feet wet, and you know, the Cards took full advantage of their inexperience. You know, Ted Snavely came out and had a huge game. You know, last year he didn't rush for over 200 yards until about 3 or 4 weeks into the year. He had 285 this game on 27 carries and 3 touchdowns. And what surprised me most about him and the Cards offense was the fact that they pretty much abandoned the passing game. They had 10 passing attempts, you know, for 26 yards between quarterbacks Ryan Coy and John Murphy. But they stuck to the running game, and it worked. I mean, and one, they're not going to switch. You're not going to fix anything that's not broken. And two, like Manny said, they're just going to be a little bit more of a running team. He called it old school Cardinal football, and just old school in general. You know, Donna did it also over in their win against Edinburgh, where they just started pounding the ball. Mm-hmm. And you know, you pick up yards, you're going to pick up wins like that. So Harlingen had a lot of success on the offensive side, sticking to that run. But what impressed me mostly was the defense, the way Manny's defense played. You know, they were everywhere. You know, and for them, giving up 32 points last year was kind of maybe they felt called out this year. You know, they wanted to prove that last year was a fluke, that last year was just a one-year thing, or that last year it was just an experience. This year they came out and they held those Fresnos to 0 points on offense. Pretty much through 3.5 quarters, not until the very end when Danny Silva came in and scored from 7 yards out. But they gave up a punt return for a touchdown to Jorge Mata.
Sounds like the Cardinals are back.
Yeah, and so are the Redskins for that matter.
Yeah.
But the game of the week wasn't all we had this weekend. There were some other big games. Mondo, can you tell me something about that?
If you read my column in today's paper, I talked about Progresso's shocking upset over Mission. Mm-hmm. It was a 7-6 score. Probably one, if not the biggest win, at least top 2 biggest wins in Progresso's history. Mm-hmm. It was a 0-0 ball game to the 4th quarter. Mission punched it in, and just like I wrote, you know, Appalachian State, their special teams came through against Michigan. This is exactly what happened in Progresso. They blocked the extra point, which enabled them to drive down the field, score, kick the extra point, and win 7-6.
A lot of coaches forget that third phase of football, which is special teams, but a lot of times that's what wins it.
Exactly, and I mean, it came out big for Progresso, and they're 1-0, and none of us picked Progresso to win. No, I don't even think anybody thought Progresso could win.
I don't think anybody in Progresso thought they would.
Probably not, except the players themselves and Coach Elvis Hernandez. And, you know, I mean, my hat's off to them. He did a heck of a job motivating those kids. And, I mean, they beat a Class 4A Mission. I mean, you'd never think that would happen.
And it's not just a Class 4A. You could beat a Class 4A Valley View, a Class 4A Westaco East. But this is a tradition-filled Mission program. You know, at the 5A level, now they're 4A. What does that do for a program like Progresso?
Well, I think it gives them the confidence that they can win. You know, I mean, and they need that over there. They don't have too many wins in their program. But this tells those kids, you know what, we can play with anybody. We can play playoff teams and beat them. You know, now their schedule gets semi-easier. You know, they got St. Joe, they got Santa Maria, some teams kind of closer to their level. Yeah. So now they should be able to, if they don't win those games, they got to be competitive in those games.
Yeah. So they could easily be 3-0, 3-2.
They could be
going into district.
They could be. I mean, in district, you know, that's always tough for them playing the big boys. But hey, I mean, nobody thought they'd beat Mission, so I mean, we don't know what to expect. That just makes 32-3A even tougher than what we thought it was.
The unpredictable Red Ants.
There you go.
Any individual performances that stick out?
Over in 31 3A, we had Johnny Esparza from Lyford go for 291 in that new spread offense of Coach Jaime Infante. And he wasn't kidding when they said they were going to throw the ball. They put it up close to 40 times. Yeah. And they beat Hebronville, which is a predicted playoff squad in 2A. There was a couple other players.
La Villa's J.D. Cisneros also had over 300 yards passing with 5 touchdowns was the impressive part. You know? It's another school that went into the spread offense.
Sure.
That, last year they had 2,000-yard running back. This year, Coach Gene Garza went in there and said, you know what, we're going to change it all up. We're going to go spread. And they have good athletes. They have the small, quick athletes that's going to help a offensive program like that, and it showed. They just went out there and they started throwing the ball, and I don't expect them to slow down anytime this season, maybe until they get deep into the playoffs. But J.D. Cisneros is going to put up numbers like they haven't seen in La Villa. Take into it.
Another quick 3A star really was Rio Hondo. They allowed West Go East only 53 yards of offense, and just like I wrote also, they haven't allowed a touchdown in their 2 scrimmages in their 1 game. They haven't allowed a touchdown whatsoever.
It's a huge.
That's amazing. We talk about the offense and Vela and Eisenberg and those guys, but we can't forget about that defense. What we called it last year was that Black Plague defense.
The Black Plague defense.
Yeah. So they were terrific as well, and Mercedes quarterback did.
Albert Chavez, he made his first start as a quarterback. He's a sophomore for the Tigers, and you have losses, and as a coach or as a fan, as a player, you always want to look at the silver lining. The silver lining here is what Albert did. They kind of got pressured into that situation where they had to pass, but they had the guy who can do it. He passed for 202 yards. The most amazing stat was his 17 of 22 completions. That's a 77% completion rate. For a sophomore that had never played under the Friday Night Lights per se, to go out there and be that effective, that efficient, it's a pretty good sign of the kind of quarterback he can be, the kind of character he has as far as not folding under pressure. And Coach Gilbert talked him up during the preseason, and everybody's got their doubts. Well, can he do it? Can he not? He didn't lead him to the win because Hidalgo executed their game plan to a T, but he still showed signs of greatness. He showed signs of what he can do over this season, over the next 2 years over at Mercedes. Again, Alex is the kind of Alex Trevino, running back. He's the kind of athlete that's very versatile. He's a running back. He rushed for, I believe, 4 or 6 yards. It's not the type of game you expect from Alex Trevino. But you know what? The guy's quick. The guy's got legit speed. They used him as a receiver. He caught 5 passes for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter when Mercedes kind of started showing signs of life on offense again. So Mercedes they start off 0-1. They lost to Hidalgo on the road. You don't want to lose to anybody, but you know what? Those are little things you can build on.
Now they got La Feria coming in, who had a pitched a defensive gem of their own against St. Joe. So that should be a big game.
That should be a big game too next week. Well, that's our recap of Week 0 for the VMSports Cast. Join us later this week when we preview some of the big games. Our game of the week coming up will be Port Isabel at Raymondville. Coach Alex Al will go for win 200, and we'll have Paul Canacha here talking about that game.
Keep an eye out on the Valley Morning Star. We'll have all our previews. We'll have our district stats, Valley's best stats. Just keep your eye out for that stuff.
Right.